it captures everything that the outdoors does for our wounded servicemen and women. It shows the challenge, the rehabilitation.
It's humbling to see them go from day 1 to day 7. Not only the physical and mental changes, but just their outlook on life changes once they go through the program.
These guys get on these trips, and especially, let's take a single below-the-knee amputee. We're kind of a paper cut in the wounded warrior community. And then you get a guy that comes in that's a triple amputee, and now you got these single below-the-knee amputees carrying this guy.
It hasn't changed in the sense that the mission's still the same. We're not exploiting these guys. We're taking them on a hunting and fishing trip of a lifetime. Disability is just a mindset. I mean, you can still do whatever you put your mind to. Improvise, adapt, overcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for tuning in to the Wilderness Attitude Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Waddell, and I have the pleasure of having some WWO members here with me. If you're not familiar with that from earlier in some of the podcasts, that's the Wounded Warrior Outdoors, and they're doing some a cool new program. I don't even know if I'd call it a program, maybe a life-changing series. Right, it's not really a program.
No, it's going to be life-changing for sure.
And it's called Adventures Enabled. And but I have Yancy Baer here with me and Thomas Neuens. And gentlemen, thanks so much for taking the time to sit down with me here in the Wilderness Athlete booth at the Sheep Show. I can tell you that through the podcasts I've done here and the people I've met here, there is a huge presence of family at this show. There's a huge presence of support and dedication to what's important within these four walls, right? I mean, I just had Christy Titus on, and whoa.
Yeah, she's pretty awesome.
What a representative of things that we're passionate about, in the wild and the wilderness and the outdoors and sheep hunting and organizations and
conservation.
Yes,
absolutely.
Thank you. It's amazing. Right?
Yes. Yeah, there's no show like it.
This is my first sheep show, so I'm just absorbing this right now.
Yeah.
I went to ATA earlier last week, went to Western Hunt last year, so I'm relatively new in the show world, right? But out of the ones that I've been to, I mean, I'd have to say, Salt Lake and the ATA show, I mean, it's kind of a bro fest gig in a sense, right? It's a lot of reconnecting and talking about what you've done and where you're going and some things like that. But, since I've been at the Sheep Show, I haven't really gotten that feel here. It's a different level.
It is. It seems to get better every year, too.
Yeah? How many years have you been coming, Thomas?
I started probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah?
Yeah.
This is my third year.
Your third year?
Yes.
And has it always been with WWO or?
Always with WWO.
Always with WWO.
Yep.
Yes. I would have only assumed that, but I didn't want to be naive, think that it's been different. But so what about Wounded Warriors Outdoors is the most important? Can you boil it down to like a single important thing?
You actually mentioned it earlier when you talked about this show. It's family. That if I had to narrow it down to one thing, it's family, and with that family drives the motivation, the therapeutic value of the program, and everything else that comes out. It's a brotherhood amongst warriors and a family because of Ron and Lisa and the way they approach it with the program.
Everyone who goes through the program becomes part of the WWO family afterwards, and we do. I mean, we have each other's backs. We talk all the time. It's pretty awesome to be a part of it.
I mean, what you're starting to put on film now is incredible, but I do get the true sense that once you're in, you don't get to leave either.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's awesome because that is the support group that you guys need. And it's something that even as a civilian and someone looking from the outside in, pay attention. There's some value here that we don't even live by day to day.
There is.
We're all out for ourselves too much. Selfish and it just,
unfortunately, yes,
and we just consume ourselves in bad ways, and so for me, getting to know you guys more is empowering to the reshaping of how I see things. And watching the first episode of Adventures Enabled was, I mean, I laughed, I cried.
Yeah.
My emotions were all over the place.
Yeah.
It was like I was
Right.
back watching E.T. again at 11 years old.
It's pretty inspiring for sure, yeah.
It's very well done.
It is. It's
Did you
very-
get to see the? Did you go to the breakfast this morning and get to see the one specifically for the sheep hunt?
I did not get to see that one. Okay, so I seen the 30-second teaser,
Okay.
right, and that
Yep.
is enough
Yeah.
Yeah.
to be like, I mean, that hook. That's a hook. I mean, if that
Yeah,
doesn't
it's-
hook you, you have no soul.
Yeah.
It shows it captures everything that the outdoors does for our wounded servicemen and women. It shows the challenge, the rehabilitation. You know, it's kind of funny. We kind of joke that we say a week outdoors with us is more than 90 days in a rehab clinic, you know, mentally
true.
and physically rehabilitative-wise. And that shows just why right there, the struggle, the emotional struggle, the mental, the physical struggle, all in one hunt captured. And you probably saw that just in that 30-second snippet.
Yeah.
But then you watch the whole, is it a seven minute
Yeah.
video, and it's hard to keep a dry eye, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, even like I say in that 30-second teaser, I mean, I was looking at Kirsty and just even some of her facial expressions and some of the things it's just like, whew.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
real. It's a real show. And I tell people, if you think about the therapy you receive in a hospital setting, it's 1 or 2 hours a day once they're injured, 5 days a week, 10 hours, and it's catered to them. You know, Mother Nature isn't ADA compliant, though, so we're telling them, you know, improvise, adapt, overcome. You know,
Yeah.
go back to your training, one foot in front of the other. And to do that with brothers and sisters that might be struggling with the same thing, and seeing them succeed, improvising, adapting, overcoming, it's humbling to see them go from day 1 to day 7. Not only the physical and mental changes, but, I mean, just their outlook on life changes once they go through the program.
And I think that's the most important baseline of it all, is it not? That they get that restructuring of their attitude.
Absolutely.
You know, because you can't blame them for not wanting to be in a bad spot after the things they've been through and where they've gone and all of it that's happened in their lives. You know, I mean, you can't blame them.
You can't blame them, but you can't allow them to be there either.
That's right.
You know, you got to pull them out of that bad spot and get them out and doing something, and sometimes doing something a little bit greater than themselves also. Yeah. So, you know, these guys get on these trips and especially let's take a single below the knee amputee. You know, we're kind of a paper cut in the wounded warrior community, and then you get a guy that comes in that's a triple amputee, and now you got these single below the knee amputees carrying this guy to get him to where he needs to be, or get him into a hunting vehicle or into a stand or something.
Yep.
And so they start giving of themselves like that, and I think that's what starts that healing process.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's where I was going with the baseline is that, you know, that you're, once you've turned yourself to that selfless act, even though you're still struggling, that empowerment that people are seeing and within you and within who you're helping, I mean, it just resonates with this extreme power.
Absolutely.
You know, and you guys are capturing that in your Adventures Enabled. You're I mean,
yeah,
it's awesome.
It's just going to get better.
So. From what I've heard on the buzz of Kirsty's sheep hunt, how do you get better? I mean, that's epic.
It is epic.
I mean, there's one scene in that I saw where she literally starts going downhill, man.
She falls back, and Ron actually stops her from falling down the mountain.
Yeah.
So
I'm
her leg gives out on her.
Yeah. She mentioned the other day that she ruined 2 knees, right? 2 legs in that gig.
Yeah.
Yeah, the prosthetics world has come a long way since the Iraq and Afghanistan's wars have happened, and that's a good thing though, because you know, people were walking on, you know, prehistoric, you know,
pegs,
type
right?
pegs, you know, literally before that. Now we've got legs that are just amazing with the electronics and electronic knees, but we still go out and we still challenge these prosthetics, and we still then go back and give feedback to these prosthetic companies who then are coming back and building even more advanced stuff. We have prosthetics now that you can actually, you get a post surgically implanted into your leg, and your prosthetic goes right onto your leg now. It no longer is like a suction cup or
an exterior mounting.
Right. It's part of your body now. And they've even got them now with sensors inside the leg that senses the muscles inside on your. They had them for arms for a long time, but now they got it to where you can actually
wiggle your toes.
You have ankle.
Stuff.
You have an ankle.
That's cool.
Yeah. The ankle's the biggest, besides a knee. Goodness, I'm so lucky to only be missing an ankle. But it'd be nice to know that the day is coming where you're going to have an ankle again and be able to maneuver, especially when you are in an outdoors community environment. You're always, you hit a stick with your toes. There's no ankle, so now your knee hyperextends, and it's constantly through the whole day struggling to get over deadfall and getting to.
Man, I struggle getting over deadfall, and I got all my original parts, man. And I can still get to the end of the day and be like, holy shit.
Yeah, that's tough.
That was brutal. And I would look forward to having the opportunity to be beside, someone who is struggling in that way with prosthetics and be a part of their life and see more of that. I mean, I would just love to engage in that surreal moments.
It's a real honor to see and be a part of the group and watch them. And honestly, I mean, there's a few people that have gone through the program before you think that they were in a dark spot, and now they're business owners, entrepreneurs, sitting on the boards of different organizations, which is just, it's amazing.
We actually have quite a bit of that within our organization.
Look, just because you're missing part of a leg doesn't mean you still don't have a brain and a heart.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They teach,
very intelligent men and
teaches
women.
people that disability is just a mindset. I mean, you can still do whatever you put your mind to. Sky's the limit,
Absolutely. Right. I got a good friend of mine who our boys used to play football together, and he's missing his hand. And I remember right out of the gate, man, and it's his right hand. And then right out of the gate, man, he just reaches out and he's like, "You're gonna shake it, and you're gonna deal with it, right?" And I just was like, and I didn't have any problem with it. And he's got one where he can do everything with it, right? And it's just like, and then I'm just constantly like, I want to play with that thing. That is cool, man. And then the last one that he got. He grabbed my hand, and I shook my hand, and I kind of looked at him. He's all, "Doesn't that feel cool?" And I was like, "Dude, it's got a new cover or what?" And he's like, "Dude, it's a whole new hand, dude." He says, "Check this thing out." He's like, "Chink," and he has to do it. And it's like the feel of the texture of the cover is almost
latex
like it's,
cover.
Yeah,
and
they got
all
those
the mechanics.
Picasso hands now.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I'm just one of those guys. I'd love to show how is it made and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm like, I want to see that. And one of my sons is brilliantly smart. I mean, he's over the top smart. But he's decided to take a year off, going to college. And at one point in time, he had mentioned, "Well, I want to go to school. I want to learn how to make these prosthetics." Like, I just think that is so intriguing. I'm just like, that would be super cool.
We know the guy. We can hook him up.
Yep. Well, he's took a little time off. We're praying that he's gonna re-engage, go to school, but we'll have to keep that in mind. I'm hoping that he'll listen to the podcast. He'll be intrigued. He'll be maybe re-energized to see that what he's hearing and what it does to continue the right mindset and being able to achieve your dreams still no matter what. But I'll tell you, even some guys that don't even wear them, man, they still ain't stopping.
Yeah.
Right? They're still not stopping.
Absolutely.
But it's cool to think that he could play a part in that in years and years and years to come. I'd be so proud.
Yeah, we have one of our prosthetists here with us, and he comes on some of the trips just in case something malfunctions. He's there, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool to have your own
crew.
Yeah. Well, then, Tommy, he can sit here and act like that, but Tommy's actually a PA, so and a veteran at that. But Tommy comes on the trip, and so we have a PA, we have a prosthetist, that are on the trip with us, so we can handle so many situations out in the wilderness, and I think that's a very important aspect of our program also.
Physician assistant.
Okay. I just want to
He's practically a doctor,
No, not really. So I was a lot of these guys, occupational therapists as well, and that's how I got introduced to the program. And at that time, I was the division officer of the rehab clinic in Neuens Medical Center, San Diego. So a lot of different organizations came through, but none like WWO. And I've been with them for 8 years now, and it hasn't changed in the sense that the mission's still the same. Mm-hmm. We're not exploiting these guys. We're taking them on a hunting and fishing trip of a lifetime.
Yeah,
and
right.
it's
well, and it's more than a hunting and fishing.
It is. It's way more than that.
Yeah, it's just the vehicle.
Yeah, that's it.
It's just the vehicle.
That's it.
And another thing that's kind of nice about the program, it's not just Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. We have Vietnam veterans in the program. In fact, we like having Vietnam veterans in our program because that shows our younger generation of warriors that life's not over just because you're a triple amputee. You can still do anything and be very successful in life for the rest of your life. And so there's a lot of inspirational pieces to our program. When you're out hunting, as a single below the knee amputee, when I'm hunting and I've got a guy missing 2 legs above the knee and he's literally crawling to get to an animal that he just harvested, it makes every ounce of pain or woe is me that just goes away.
Yeah.
You really are no longer you're inspired by your brothers.
I don't see any woes me in Adventures Enabled at all.
No,
and I'm pretty sure it's not being edited out.
No,
there is none of that.
It's pretty raw. I mean,
if it does come out, we snatch it up pretty quick.
It get nipped in the ass fast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what I really enjoyed about the first one is how amazing. Just how blunt, honest, and how forthright you guys are, and you guys are freaking funny. I mean, all this, you guys still can laugh and smile and give each other shit. And I mean, you guys are. I mean, even the team names. I mean, it was just this whole thing is just fun.
We're about to do our second Heritage Classic fundraiser, and it's going to have some good team names in it also, and some good activities planned. So,
and I just love, I just loved how you guys talk to each other with your legs, and you guys are, and what's the gentleman's name that's in the wheelchair that wants to be on Naked and Afraid?
JD.
JD.
God,
Dude,
he should.
Hoot, man.
He needs to be on that show.
I don't know. So JD said, did you hear what JD's 2 items are that he would want?
No.
I think one was a hatchet.
One's a hatchet.
Yeah,
One's a hatchet.
He's like, look at how good I am with
and
this
he
hatchet.
throws it.
He's really good.
He's
super accurate.
He actually is really good, but on that he completely missed it.
He's like, oh damn.
But his second item for Naked and Afraid is a. You think it's all right for the podcast?
It's okay from. Oh really?
Yeah, because he's a triple amputee. He has to be on the ground crawling around a lot.
He doesn't want bugs in his butt.
Yeah, he goes, so he's got to plug it up somehow. So, so that's just 2 items for Naked and Afraid.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I guess there's protecting yourself and then feeding yourself. He's got it covered. Both of those, right? Well, that's hilarious. I mean, I laughed, and then and at the same time, it's empowering for someone like me, and I'm hoping my listeners will take the time to go look at WWO and watch Adventures Enabled, follow them, show them some love and support. But how else can people support WWO?
Well, you can support in several ways. You can support by, of course, donating on the website, Wounded Warrior Outdoors. Mm-hmm. You can attend one of our fundraisers. We have a few fundraisers around the country, and that's a great way because not only do you get to support Wounded Warrior Outdoors, but you also get to meet the Wounded Warriors of the program.
Right.
And you can actually see the lives that are being changed.
The
and
interaction,
even saved.
everything. Absolutely. But I think the easiest way to do it would probably be you can go online to woundedwarrioroutdoors.com. Yep. And it's Wounded Warrior singular and then outdoors.
Got it.
And then .com, and they can donate right on the website.
That sounds well. I sure hope that someone will get out there and do it. But I want to, if it's possible, can we go back and touch a little bit on your service, where you came from, Yancy? What got you? When did you decide you wanted to serve? And then, where and how and what brought you to where you're sitting today?
Right. I grew up in a little town, Choctaw, Oklahoma, and I just wanted to get out of there. And at 17, I contacted a recruiter. I wasn't even legally old enough to join yet, and talked to them and had a delayed program to come in. So when I turned 18 and came in the Army, I came in for the education too. No one in my family at that time had been, I'd finished up college, and I wanted to do that. That was just something I wanted to do, and so I joined for 4 years to get the GI Bill and go to college. And 25 years later, I retired from the Army. So I did get my master's, but through staying in the military and doing it, I did 10 years infantry as an enlisted guy, and then I went to the dark side, as they say, and I got a commission and became an officer for my last 15 years.
Gotcha.
And then
Yancy's really humble, but he's a total badass. He's not letting in on that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
No.
He did
Some
15 years with the Special Forces, too, after that.
I did 7 years with them. Yeah.
Wow.
But, yeah.
I have a good friend of mine, Steve Casper, who was, I don't know all the terminology. I mean, at this point now, he's pretty high up in the recruiting. He's out in Virginia. He's done recruiting offices around, and he's so successful that they brought him out there, and he's doing some of the stuff on the tail end of the Green Beret recruiting side. And I don't know exactly his title, but I think he's a first master sergeant. Do I say that in the right order?
Is the Army?
Yes.
So he could be a master sergeant or a first sergeant, depends on the position he's
I
holding.
think he's a master sergeant.
So,
yeah,
absolutely.
And he's a super cool guy. I mean, we've sat down and had some really deep conversations about some of the tours that he did and some of the things that he And I was a younger kid, always in trouble. And my dad was served, and he really didn't want me to serve. Coming off of the tail end of Vietnam and some things, he was just like, it's messy, it's political, it's not what, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know, he kind of talked me out of it.
Right.
And I didn't do it. And then I sit down with Steve and I go through some of the stuff and who he is and what he did. And, I know it was real, but some of it sounds fun.
Yeah.
It sounds fun.
I enjoyed
Best
every
years
day
of my life.
Yeah. Every day of 25 years I enjoyed. I knew it was time to retire when I did retire.
Right.
But, I would do it all the exact same.
It's an honor to serve, really.
Yeah, and now it's like I look back on my life and I'm like, God, if I wasn't a drug addict and I wasn't just a total piece of shit, I could have been.
They have some of those in the military, too.
We have plenty of those in the military.
Hey, we know that we have that in every race, every ethnicity, every part of the world, right? But I know that about myself.
The military is a big melting
that.
pot. So.
Yeah.
But I just, there was so much cool stuff. I could have been a cop. I could have been in the Army. There's just all these things that I feel like I just.
Yeah, but you maybe wouldn't be where you are right now.
No, exactly.
And life maybe wouldn't have taken the
reason.
path that happens. People all the time are, I wish I could. The military is just not for everyone, and it's such a small percentage of people that do serve. So I always try to tell people you don't need to feel bad for not joining. It's a job. It's no. So and then I start talking. Well, what do you do for work? I'm an electrical engineer or whatever it is. I'm like, well, gosh, what would we even do, without electrical engineering? If everybody joined the Army, and
we didn't have any electrical,
exactly. So
it's. Yeah, I surely do. I'm not. I don't. I am who I am today because of what I've been every day up to today.
For sure.
Right.
And I know that.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, though, I look at some of that stuff and I think, man, how rad would that? Some of that stuff sounds super cool.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so one that sticks out in my mind. He tells me a story that, he's got a car following him. He's on the tail end and he's on a 50 on the back end, and they got this car. He's too close. We're uncomfortable. I want permission to shoot. I want permission. We're trying to evade this car. It will not leave us. They are staying too close, and he's like asking for permission to unload on this car, and they're like, oh, well, hold on, let's this, that, whatever. I don't know what they're trying to figure out, and then finally he got cleared, and he said it was the most empowering thing to put around through the engine block of that car and watch them all get out and watch all these guys get out and flipping him off and yelling at him and all this stuff, and he's like, he just was like, that's cool. Like, I put one round through that block, and it was over. They didn't get to go any further. He's like, I didn't have to annihilate anybody. I didn't have to really light up their world. I gave them a warning shot, but it was a perfect warning shot.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, we can go into the dark sides of a lot of that stuff, irrelevant to this podcast, obviously, but maybe not. I mean, there's a dark side to a lot of your guys' past in service and even post-service, and it's not an easy place to be.
There's a lot of dark side, but, you know, I try to always, when I'm talking to some fellow veterans who are struggling, I tell them, you know, you can ponder on the bad things that's happened in life, the bad things you've seen in life, and especially the guys with families. I'm like, but what about the day your child was born? Why don't you ponder on that? The day you've met your wife for the first time, why don't you ponder on that? You know, there's so many things you have to, there's images there, there's thoughts there, there's things there that will probably never leave your mind, but you don't have to concentrate and think about those things. You can make yourself think about other things that are positive things, and that's your choice to dwell on that. And of course, you know, the medication, Tommy could talk that for a while, but you know, I'm always trying to talk guys off of the medication. You know, try to find something that mentally and physically cures you.
Yeah.
But without the medication, find something that does it. It's out there. There's holistic approaches to everything for
absolutely. That's why I think
cures.
WWO is such a success. It's because they show the guys, you know, hunting as a form of medicine, and I think that's
it's mental therapy for me.
Absolutely,
I can tell you that. I mean, and physical therapy,
psychological, physical,
everything.
therapeutic.
You know, I mean,
absolutely.
when I pick up my bow, I mean, it's like I don't think about anything. Other than that shot in that very instance, right? I mean, it's so easy. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm sorry, I was talking. I'm like, I didn't even hear you.
Yeah, that's the same when you're on a pistol range or when you're at a range. I do ballistic therapy all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I go out there and I just, when you're out there and you're shooting, you're thinking about what you're shooting and how you're shooting and the fundamentals of shooting, and everything else just kind of leaves your body, and you just, you know, it's very therapeutic. Some people just can't understand that, but, you know, therapy, people, it's no different than somebody that can go get a massage or somebody that can go, you know, sit and talk to a counselor. It's the same thing.
It has to be right for that person.
Absolutely.
Figure it out. Figure what it is out that is your therapy.
Yeah, everybody's an individual, right? I mean, I even was going to a church when I was in my early 20s down, and I lived in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I got invited to quiet time, men's quiet time. Okay. And I was like, all right, yeah, I can go dig, sit down, read the Bible, and have some quiet time and chill out. And I get in this car, man, and we're cruising along, and we're going out the desert, and I'm like, okay. I haven't known you guys very long, and where are you taking me?
I've watched Breaking Bad, right?
Where are we going? And they're like, oh, we're going out in the desert to have a little quiet time. And I'm like, all right. Still no new information here, you know. And we get out, 10 cars line up, all these guys pop their lids. Man, they get out, we get in a circle, we pray, and then next thing you know, man, we're breaking out guns, man. We were there for a quiet time, and it was insane. I mean, I got my hands on an AK. And some of these guys had some money, so, I mean, they'd be like, they'd load in a 50 and be like, let it rip. And I'm like, I get to shoot the whole clip? Yeah, as fast as you want. If you can stand up and pull that baby, get on it. And I was just
awesome.
like, I remember rolling back into town going, that is the most badass quiet time I've ever had in my life. I mean, I for years after that, I was just like, I needed that. Like, where has that been all my life, you know?
Absolutely.
This is super fun stuff.
So when did you come in the Army or Navy, right?
Yeah, it's Navy. So my wife and I actually joined together, which was a fun experience, actually.
Right.
We did it for basically college, pay for our college, and you know, I knew I wanted to go back to school. My wife wanted to, so the post 9/11 bill's out there.
And what year was this that you?
This is 2009.
Okay.
So went to San Diego, which was terrible, right? But from Michigan, it was a culture shock.
Sure.
So got there and worked in the rehab department, and I got to deploy with the Marine Corps in 2012. We deployed to Helmand Province, Afghanistan. Came home, worked in San Diego for a couple more years, and then went back to school. I just graduated about a year ago, so still figuring life out.
Yeah, you're a youngin'. You're a youngin' for sure. Okay, so I'm supposed to, I have a friend of mine. He says, cool. Huh? Yeah, brother-in-law. Anyway, he says,
Friend, brother.
ask Brandon to ask Yancy if he knows Sergeant Major Matt Majori or Sergeant First Class Tung Gwen. Both Special Forces from my old unit. Tung was killed in action.
Do you know
November
what group?
2006. Here, you text him and ask him what group. Mm-hmm. And Tony was Special Forces as well. Then came out, and then he was. I always laugh because he was with the president, and he was a bed hopper, right? So he'd go in and clear rooms and clear events and all that kind of stuff. And so he's like, yeah, I loved my job. I used to just jump on the beds to make sure they wouldn't go boom. And I'm thinking, seriously, there's not a better way to figure out if a bed's going to go boom. You don't sniff it with dogs. You don't, do TSA kind of stuff. And he's like, oh, no. Just go jump on the bed. And then we'd make the beds back up. And I'm just like, that sounds fun. But
you get paid to do that stuff. You know?
You got paid very well to do it.
Grown men jumping on beds. It's
why wouldn't you want to do that?
Well, better job.
Seems professional, legit to
Right?
me. Yep, beds are clear.
Yeah.
But he's got some cool stories too. I shouldn't have left him out. I mean, Steve Casper and Tony Romero. I mean, they, I'm humbled to know some of the guys that have been in the trench and been, on the outside. And, and I mean, I've had, I go back to Steve a little bit, I've been able to sit in my garage with Steve and him tell me stories and break down about his life and about some of his adventures, in Iraq and being able to talk to him about some of that depth and some of that deep stuff. And I really, really, there's something I was honored to be able to hold Steve and him cry, and give it up to me at times about some of his stuff, and then and thank me for being there. I mean, even to the day, he's like, "Hey, man, I just really appreciate your friendship," and I'm like, "I appreciate yours, man." I mean, this is a yin and yang gig here. It's not all about. This ain't a one-way street, right?
Right.
And Wounded Warriors Outdoors is the same gig. This isn't a one-way street. I mean, we can offer you a vehicle. We can show you the outdoors. We can show you hunting. We can take you out there, but you got to do your part.
You're part of the family after.
Right.
And when you earn that, it's got to be a pretty cool gig.
It is cool.
It's an honor.
It is an honor.
It truly is an honor to get to go on these adventures.
And there is a very emotional aspect about WWO too.
So what? I mean, we described it as family, and that's an extremely important part. But deep down in your soul, is there something more personal or more selfish in a sense, even that for you that
healing?
I'm not hesitant when I say I've seen this program save lives, literally save someone's life.
Mm-hmm. And people we have you hear the stories quite often, but I know of one warrior at least that was invited to come on a hunt and had completely laid everything out to end his life before he was going to do the hunt, come home and end his life. And he ended up going on his last hurrah, and he ended up going on the hunt with us, and he's living a wonderful life to this day.
Right.
Happy, married, kids.
Yep. What?
It's amazing.
I mean, he embraced it and took it back hard,
absolutely.
Huh?
And absolutely. It's still choking me up a little bit, but yeah.
Well, but that's, I'm just so proud of what you guys do. I'm so honored to have you guys sitting here and being a part of my podcast. I mean, it's extremely humbling, and like you said earlier, my life has brought me full circle to here, and having the opportunity to be in the WA booth and them giving me that hand up to spread the messages of this family, your family, the WA family, the Adventures Enabled show, Christy Tyus's stuff. I mean, the sheep show. I mean, it's amazing to me. I guess I never really understood the depth of some of this. You know, I mean, I'm sitting here just, I mean, I don't pre-do my podcast. I do a little research. I have an idea where we're going, but you know, sitting here right now, I don't know. I'm just humbled. I'm almost speechless because I just don't even know what to say from here. It's pretty cool.
We definitely want to thank you for inviting us on your podcast and helping us get the word out there for Wounded Warrior Outdoors and for Adventures Enabled. And like you said, you know, just following us on Facebook, following the series as it comes out, the Adventures Enabled series, you know, that's support in itself.
And just know that you are changing lives every day.
You know, and my podcast doesn't reach nearly the amount of people that some others do.
But it reaches people.
But I'll tell you what, in my message to most all of my listeners, and sometimes my message can be a little bit redundant, and I've heard that here lately that, you know, I ask the same questions and we do the same thing, and it's all hunters and you know, but I'll tell you what, I mean, if I can change one life out of this podcast,
right,
then
it's worth it.
Then it was worth every moment of what it took for me to get here, to be here. For Kate to edit it and for us to produce it and for us to talk about it, that's it.
And, you know, what you just said also, touching a life, if there are any wounded warriors out there that are struggling, even if you're not struggling, if you're a wounded warrior and you just need to get away from working or whatever, you know, please get on our Facebook page. Please reach out to us on our website.
Yep.
Fill out an application so we can get you out there and get you part of the family, get you out there, get you hunting.
Yeah, even through the show, any of my contacts, everybody, you know, we'll lay it all out there, but same here. I mean, even if someone forgets something, they're just like, hey, I heard some podcast, you know, who do I get in touch with? I'll help out.
Right.
I'll do whatever I can. I mean, and I'm really looking forward and hoping that through this show and the years to come that I can continue to be a part of what you guys are doing. Thomas has left the podcast for a few minutes. He's obviously as a physician assistant, we had somebody in a booth next door that kind of needed some medical help, so he wasn't diving out on us. He was just doing what he was putting on this good earth to do. So I appreciate his time, and we'll re-engage with him after a bit. I would love to be in that present moment of feeling some of this. I mean, I can feel it just through what you guys have done and what you filmed and what I see, and you sitting here at this table and opening up yourself and opening up your heart and talking to me and looking at me and being engaging. It would be an honor just to be even in the presence of an actual hunt, or, you know, I mean, because my system is mobile. I have 27 pounds right there, man, and I can be anywhere. I mean, we can do a podcast on the top of a mountain. We could be at the top of a mountain on a kill and sit down and really soak in the moment, and that would be epic.
Yeah, you'd have to get with Ron or Lisa about that.
Yeah, no, I'm just spitting my dream out here, man.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to confirm anything contract with you, but you'll see where that goes someday. You never know. But
no, absolutely.
So tell me, I wanted with Thomas here, but what – we've been deep here in the conversation so far, but let's talk about some fun stuff that you can recall from some of the makes of the Adventures Enabled. But is there anything that sticks out in your mind that was probably the funniest thing that ever happened, or is there too many?
It happens every trip. I mean, I can't even talk about last night. You know, it's just us being here in Reno. It truly, it's amazing how quickly the warrior, you know, it's almost every hunt we do has the same pattern. Mm-hmm. The first day is the get to know each other pattern. These guys come in. We always try to have, you know, a mentor type person on the hunt.
Right.
And so we come in and everybody's just kind of filling each other out. And then the second day they're starting to talk a little bit. And then the guys that know each other, they're just all out. They're doing the moose with their leg, as you saw Jason do on the show and all that. And worse. But and then you know, by the third day, that brotherhood is formed. The trust is there. Something that's really cool about the program, and we get this all the time, is when these warriors get together, that brotherhood forms. They sleep for the first time. For some of them in years, they have a solid, restful night's sleep. Wow. Because they know usually we're in a hunting lodge of some sort. And they know in the room next door, in the bed next door, if we're sharing rooms, is another warrior or brother that they can actually trust, and they will actually go to sleep for the first time and sleep restfully. We get that all the time, and you can't replicate that.
Never even would have thought of that.
Yeah, exactly. It's things like that. But I don't know if I can tell you the 50 cal bullet hole story, but I'll try to keep it clean. But
okay.
So this is probably one of the funniest things that I know of personally. Is we have one of our warriors that's got a scar. He's got a pretty good scar on his arm. And when we first go somewhere, so we were in Alaska, so there's all these fishing guides. That's another thing for our warriors out there. If you're not a hunter, we do have a fishing program also. It's a small fishing program. We do have one.
Good to know.
So you can still become part of the family and not ever have to do a hunt.
Right.
But so we're in Alaska. We're at a fishing lodge. It's as remote as you can get in the Aleutian Islands. And there's all these guides and everybody that works at the lodge and everything. The story starts to spread that this particular warrior is one of the only surviving members of the armed forces that was shot with a 50 cal, and he's got this huge injury on his arm. That's the entrance wound for a 50 cal.
And how do you have any arm left with a 50 cal?
His arm's pretty tore up.
Okay.
And he continues to. Everybody talks about this, and everybody's interest is getting piqued. Oh my gosh, and they're like, you want to see that? You got to ask him to see the exit. You think the entrance wound is bad? Look at what a 50 cal round does as an exit wound. And so everybody's always asking. So finally, like the last night, second to the last night, everybody's sitting around having a drink or two, and hey, does anyone want to see this 50 cal exit wound? Everybody gets around. So he's standing in the middle of the room, and he has no less than 20 to 30 people hovering around him. There's people with hey, would you mind if I took footage, got a picture of it, you film it, whatever.
I show my wife.
People are, they've got video running and stuff, and he starts telling his story, and he goes, okay, is everybody ready to see the 50 cal bullet wound, exit wound? And they're like, yeah. And he turns around and drops his pants and spreads his cheeks. It's a joke the entire time. He never was shot with a 50 cal, but it was just so he's got all these people taking pictures right as he pulls his pants and spreads his cheeks apart, and that's his 50 cal exit wound story. So
that's good stuff.
Yeah, so it's pretty funny.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, and he gets them all the time.
I'm sure that one never gets old.
It's actually that gentleman sitting right there.
Right here?
In the blue shirt.
Oh, I got you. Well, we should have had him come tell the story.
Yeah.
But it's all right.
Hey, Josh.
He can't hear you.
He can't hear me. He's talking to Jim.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'll tell you what.
Jim is one of our Vietnam era. He was wounded in 1969 in Vietnam. He's a triple amputee, and he gets out there and does it to this day. And so when we have young amputees come in, especially young amputees like Jim, they see that he is still to this day making it happen and doing very well. And he's a mentor for them.
It's a vision of hope.
And the gentleman that I was telling you about earlier that was going to end his life was inspired by Jim on that trip. So,
it's just amazing. I'm so proud of all of you, what you've done, in serving and doing what you've done, and then coming out and finding a way to save lives and maybe not necessarily save them, but regroup them, refocus them, re-energize them. There's lots of different facets to the program, right? Because of every individual's need. And
sometimes people look at it as just a hunt, and it's the furthest from the hunt. It really is.
That's this much of the journey.
It's a respect of nature, respect of hunting, but it's also a brotherhood. It's a therapeutic outing. So.
Well, I thank you so much for being on the show with me, Yancy.
Thank you, Brandon, for having us on the show.
I appreciate it so much, and I really look forward to getting to hang out with you guys at some point because, you guys are I'm kind of raw.
Yeah, that's good. I was about to say, you got to make sure you don't wear your thin skin. If you
no, there's no thin skin around me. I'm a lot for some people to handle. So, I think I'd fit right in.
Absolutely.
I think it'd be a good time.
Deal.
Thanks so much. Once again, throw out how people can contact you, and maybe you got a shout out to anybody you want to thank, or
of course, all the thanks go out to Ron Raboud and his wife Lisa. They're the founders of Wounded Warrior Outdoors. If you want to get in touch with Wounded Warrior Outdoors, you can go on the Facebook page. It is under Wounded Warrior Outdoors, or you can go on the website itself, woundedwarrioroutdoors.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Everybody, thanks for tuning in to the Wilderness Attitude Podcast. I really appreciate it. This is a heartfelt, touching moment for me. These guys are amazing. I know there's lots of places for you to get involved in this world, a lot of organizations, a lot of places where you could put your money, but these guys are amazing. Go donate, go support, go watch Adventures Enabled, and you will laugh, you will cry, and you will tune in to the next one, I guarantee it. It's an awesome series that is gripping and really puts life in perspective for you. So thanks for tuning in. Please go give us a review if you don't mind. 1 star, 5 stars. We appreciate them all. And if there's any questions you have for me, you can email me at wildernessattitude.com. Thank you. See you next week.